All right, let's take a look at the exams and the certifications you earned by taking those exams as part of the interpreter credentials. So first, I'd like to mention that there are two certifying bodies. This means there are two organizations that offer healthcare interpreter certification, and they are both considered equal in the state of California. They both do meet the certification requirement to practice in workers' compensation. So I do get a lot of questions about which exam should I take, which one should I take if I want to get more work, which one is better. And to be honest with you, what you're going to have to consider is the certification available in your language, because they are not available in all of the languages, and which one looks better for you. And that is going to include you taking a look at both exams and reading about both exams. I'm going to give you links to the handbook for each exam, and then you can make a decision on your own. Now, you heard me say that the exams are not available in all of the languages. Let me clarify a little bit about that, because each exam does have, each certification does offer different tiers or different steps of certification that allows for any person who speaks any language to be able to try to earn this credential. So we're going to take a look at each just very briefly, and then I'm also going to give you the links for those handbooks and their websites, because their certification requirements might change in time. I'm going to show you what it is now, but I always want to give you that information for you to seek on your own and have access to their direct websites in case anything were to change. Okay, so let's take a look at the first one. We're going to look at the Certification Commission for Healthcare Interpreters. This is the entity or the certifying body known as CCHI. And they offer three types of certification. They offer CCHI certification in Arabic, Mandarin, and Spanish. And CCHI certification, we'll take a look at it a little bit further, but this is going to be a certification that is going to be language specific, and it's going to test your skills, knowledge, and abilities. Whereas the CoreCHI performance is not going to be language specific. So if you do not speak Arabic, Mandarin, or Spanish, you can take CoreCHI performance exam to earn that certification, and that is going to test your abilities, your skills and your knowledge. And then CoreCHI, again, is available for all the languages, and it's going to test your knowledge. Now, let me back up a little bit, because I said that CoreCHI performance and CoreCHI is available for all the languages. Well, there's a caveat here. It's available for all of the languages except for Arabic and Mandarin and Spanish. And the reason for that is because if you are an interpreter of Arabic, Mandarin, or Spanish, you are required to then complete the CHI certification, and you cannot hold CoreCHI performance or CoreCHI. That's only for interpreters of languages other than these three. Okay, so let's take a look at the general requirements for these exams. So you must be 18 years of age, and you must have graduated from high school, either in the U.S. or you have an equivalency like a GED from the U.S., or show proof that you graduated from an educational program outside of the United States. So high school diploma from outside the United States is fine. You also have to demonstrate language proficiency in English and your target language, so your language of service. And there are several ways that you can do this. As far as for English, if you graduated from a high school in the United States, that is one way to show that you speak English. So you can submit your transcripts showing that you took English courses or English literature courses, whatever the requirement was for your high school. You can also submit courses that you took in the college. So if you did not graduate from a college in the US, then you can show, for example, your ARC transcripts showing that you've taken an English course here or a high level of ESL that meets that requirement. And again, those requirements are going to be spelled out even better than in this quick video in that handbook that I mentioned earlier. And you also have to show language proficiency in your language of service. If you graduated, for example, from a high school in Iran, and you can show then that you speak Farsi, right? If you graduated from a high school in El Salvador, then that's proof that you speak Spanish. So your equivalency, your high school equivalency or high school diploma from outside of the United States can also serve as proof that you speak that language of service. Another way that you can do this is through HCI 310. And we offer the program in different languages every year. For example, this year we are offering it for Spanish, Ukrainian, Russian, Mandarin, Cantonese, Arabic, Farsi, and Dari. So if you speak any of those languages, we will offer you the opportunity to take an exam to show proficiency. So that's one way that you can do it as well. But there are different ways, and if you do not meet any of the ones that I just mentioned, please don't worry. There are other ways that you can do so, that you can show this proficiency. You'll just have to take a look at the handbook. And then lastly, a completion of a minimum of 40 hours of training. So you do have to complete some training. You have to have taken a course on healthcare interpreting specifically to be able to sit or to be able to take this exam. And HCI 310 can also meet that requirement. HCI 310 is actually considered 54 hours of training. So once you have completed HCI 310, then you can show transcripts that show that you completed it successfully, and that would count as 54 hours, which meets that 40-hour requirement. And in parentheses, I have there not experience, and that's for folks who have interpreted in the past and who want to show the training as part want to present their training as part of their experience. Unfortunately, experience doesn't count. It has to be time in the classroom. Okay, so let's take a look at those 3 certifications that are offered through CCHI. The first one is considered Tier 1, that's what they refer to it, and it is the CoreCHI. So this is the first tier of certification that is going to test your knowledge in the healthcare interpreting profession. So it's available to interpreters of all languages except for Arabic, Mandarin, and Spanish. And you heard me say that because if you speak any of these languages, you must take the CHI certification exam. This exam is given all in English, but it still does require that you meet CCHI's language proficiency criteria. And so you have to pass the CoreCHI exam in English in order to earn this certification. And so according to CCHI, what it is that they test you on, what it is that you can prove with this certification is that you have been tested in the most critical knowledge related to professional responsibility as a healthcare interpreter. That's going to include interpreter ethics, managing an interpreting encounter, healthcare terminology, the U.S. healthcare system, your knowledge of the U.S. healthcare system, as well as cultural responsiveness that is required in order to work as a healthcare interpreter. You're going to also be tested with your critical thinking and ethical decision-making skills and abilities. So let's move on to what they refer to as Tier 2. Now in Tier 2, we're going to find two types of certification. The first one is a CoreCHI Performance Certification, and this is available to interpreters of all languages except those three that I mentioned, and it is going to require that you meet CCHI's language proficiency criteria as well. And for this certification, you have to pass the Knowledge CoreCHI exam, which is the one we just talked about, that you take in order to earn the CoreCHI certification, and another exam or another part of the full exam, and that is going to be a monolingual performance or English to English exam. And so on their website, CCHI explains that this certification is offered in order to give interpreters of any language a valid national professional standard that is going to assess their core professional knowledge and cognitive interpreting skills. Those are going to be the skills that you need in order to perform the duties of the healthcare interpreter. So it is monolingual, so the performance tasks that you will be performing during the exam are going to be in English, therefore considered available to any language. And this is going to then, if we remember when we talked about SKA, which was skills, knowledge, and abilities, this is going to measure your knowledge, but it's also going to measure your skills. So things like note-taking, knowledge of healthcare, and things like that. So this is considered a Tier 2 because you are going to be taking an exam that is going to go a little farther than just the Code of Ethics, Standards of Practice, medical terminology. It's going to actually measure or test you in some performance. All right. So the second tier also includes the CCHI CHI certification, and this is going to test you on everything that an interpreter needs to know. It's going to test you in all three: your skills, knowledge, and your ability to interpret. So this certification is going to say that if you pass this, then you are a person who is able to perform the functions of a healthcare interpreter competently, independently, and unsupervised. It also means that you can do this in any setting where healthcare takes place. And it's going to also test your skills and say that you can do so in any modality. And by modality, we mean in person, over the phone, or over video. If you pass this exam, then you have proven that you have the knowledge, skills, and abilities required to relay messages accurately from a source language to a target language, which then, in order to say that you can do this, means that you will have to complete tasks during the test where you are going to interpret. So they are going to give you interpreting scenarios that you are going to interpret in order to test whether you can interpret and relay messages accurately from one language to another. It's also going to test that you do so in a culturally competent manner and in accordance with the established ethical standards. So protocols and so forth. So this exam, again, as I mentioned, is that second tier certification, which is a performance certification, and it's currently available to interpreters of Arabic, Mandarin, and Spanish only. It does require that you meet the language proficiency criteria, and you have to pass the CoreCHI exam and a bilingual performance exam. So not the E2E, but the bilingual performance exam. So you're going to pass the written, which people refer to as the written, which is the CoreCHI exam, and a bilingual performance exam. Okay, so I am going to post this presentation for you, and in that presentation you will find the CCHI Candidates Examination Handbook, which is one of the document that I've been referring to here quite a bit. So here's all of the information that you can see, what you can find in order to know when to take the exam, what exams do I want to take, and things like that. So this is the one that is for the CCHI, and I just want to take a look at a couple of things here. So I'm going to skip over to page 8 here so that we can take a look at what we are going to be tested on when we take the CoreCHI exam, which again sometimes referred to as the written part. So 23% of the exam is going to be professional responsibility and interpreter ethics. So the code of ethics is going to be something that you would study for this, right? 24% is going to be managing the interpreting encounter. So self-monitoring yourself and monitoring the encounter, making sure that you follow protocols and things like that. 25% is going to be healthcare terminology. So it's important that you keep current with healthcare terminology, and that's one of the reasons why this program requires that you take a midterm class, right? 13% is going to be the U.S. health systems. So make sure that you maintain a familiarity with the U.S. health systems, cultures, organizational structures, things like that. And then cultural responsiveness is 15%. Okay, so I'll let you read a little bit more about that. I'm going to skip over to page 12 so we can take a look at the English to English, or the E to E, and this is going to test you. So this is going to be the test that you're going to take in addition to the CoreCHI. If you want to earn the CoreCHI performance, you're going to take the written one and this part is going to test your listening and comprehension skills, shadowing, memory capacity, restating the meaning. So you're going to be given, for example, one sentence and that's going to be written in one way, and then a choice of other sentences, and you have to choose which one carries the exact same meaning as the first one. Equivalence of meaning, reading comprehension, and speaking skills in language other than English, and this part is unscored. But you see here 13% for shadowing, 14 listening, 24 memory capacity, so that's a big one. Restating the meaning is another big one. Equivalency of meaning, reading comprehension. All right, and now I'm going to skip on over to page 15 so we can take a look at the blueprint for the interpreting portion. So for those of you who speak Arabic, Mandarin, or Spanish, what you are going to be doing is, again, taking the CoreCHI portion, or known as the written portion. And for the Spanish candidates, you're going to be doing interpreting consecutively 70%. Again, that's going to be the mode that is going to be most prominent in healthcare. Simultaneous interpretation, 17%. Sight translation, 11%. And then a written translation for 2%. For Arabic, it's a little higher with the consecutive. It is 75%, 14% for simultaneous, 9% for sight translation, and then 2% translation. Okay, so let's take a look at, oh, and I'm sorry, I should have mentioned this is for Arabic and Mandarin. Okay, now let's take a look at the fees. So I'm going to hop on over to page 26 over here so we can take a look at the cost of the exam. So here I'll let you take a closer look to it on your own, but this is going to be something that you want to consider as well as you are choosing your exam. So the initial fee is $231, which includes the application fee, which is $40 and is non-refundable. And then $191 covers the cost of taking and scoring the CoreCHI. If you are going to take the E2E, it's going to be the cost for the CoreCHI and $302 for the E2E. And if you speak Arabic, Spanish, or Mandarin, then you would do the CoreCHI plus the bilingual examination fee, which is also $302. All right, and again, I'm going over this fairly quickly. You can read a little bit more about it, or as much as you want about it, when you open the handbook through the link I will give you. Lastly, let's take a look at renewal. Okay, so this certification is going to be good for 4 years. So every 4 years you would have to renew. So you can see here that says the Core Certification Healthcare Interpreter, Core Certification Healthcare Interpreter Performance, and the Certified Healthcare Interpreter certifications are valid for 4 years from the date when CCHI granted or issued you your credential. Okay, and so it means that every 4 years you have to do a renewal, and you don't have to take the test all over again. There are continuing education requirements that you have to complete, and so every 4 years you have to meet these this maintenance certification requirements, and then also pay a fee in order to keep your certification or renew your certification.